Upon awakening as a flawed and malevolent Omega young master, I subjected the protagonist, the Alpha, to relentless humiliation. In a desperate bid for survival, I deliberately endeavored to seduce him. He seized my misbehaving foot with a firm grip, stating, "Young master, what pretense is this? You are undeniably innocent. I truly wish to know. When you are awake, do you feel as I do?" I stammered, trembling as I attempted to swat him away, yet he grasped my hand. "Do not strike my face. Direct your efforts here instead." At the moment of my awakening, I inadvertently delivered a swift kick to the man's knee. The force was considerable, yet Shunyu merely let out a muffled grunt, remaining steadfast and absorbing the impact. He lifted his eyelids, regarding me with an expressionless gaze. His eyes deep and inscrutable, confronted by his stare. A wave of apprehension washed over me, and I blustered, "What are you looking at?" "Kneel." Complying, Shunyu lowered his head and knelt before me. Since when do dogs have the right to meddle in their master's affairs? I placed my foot upon Shunyu's thigh, applying pressure gradually. However, a torrent of information surged into my mind, akin to a thunderclap, leaving me utterly shaken. Blinking in disbelief, I instinctively glanced at Shunyu, who kept his gaze lowered, obscuring his expression. To my astonishment, I realized I was the wicked male antagonist of a novel, while Shunyu, whom I had just trampled, was the protagonist of this tale. Moreover, I was the catalyst for Shunyu's dark transformation, ultimately leading to my own tragic demise. I found myself ensnared in the grim reality of my impending fate. Suddenly, a pair of hands slipped into the loose fabric of my trousers, gliding up my ankle and seemingly squeezing gently. The chill of his fingertips against my skin jolted me back to awareness. I yearned to retract my foot, but recalling the fragmented memories that had flashed through my mind, I hesitated. If any of those memories held truth, defying him would surely spell my doom. I glared at Shunyu and demanded, "What are you doing?" As he continued his ministrations, he softly kneaded my calf. "Your grace is precious. Do not injure your leg," he replied. I frowned, questioning, "Is it necessary to reach in for a massage? Are you not aware of the distinctions between AOs?" Shunyu paused momentarily, rubbing my leg with a gentle touch, lifting his face with an expression of innocence. "Because I am your dog." He then grasped my hand, guiding it toward the side of his neck, where a soft prominence awaited. Instinctively, I pressed down, eliciting a sharp intake of breath from Shunyu. He gasped softly, his unwavering gaze fixed on me, as he smiled, "As long as you desire it, this too belongs to you." I must admit, Shunyu possessed an exceptional appearance. Under his intense scrutiny, I felt an unexpected warmth spread through me, and it must be the alcohol I consumed at the banquet that caused this sensation. For reasons unknown, I felt as if I were the prey, ensnared without escape. Frantically, I withdrew my hand and pushed Shunyu away, exclaiming, "Rein in your pheromones." As a subpar Omega, I was notoriously unresponsive to pheromones. If I could detect them, it was evident how overwhelming the alpha's scent permeated the room. Shunyu fixed his gaze upon me, articulating each word with precision. "I apologize, young master, but it cannot be retracted." 2. I was momentarily taken aback and instinctively inquired, "Why?" Shunyu suddenly rose and approached me, one hand brushing against the side of my neck, causing my body to stiffen. My glands, having differentiated poorly, had always been a forbidden area for me. No one was permitted to mention or touch them. As my bodyguard, Shunyu should have been acutely aware of this fact. After my differentiation failure, my parents had sought out Shunyu, whose compatibility with me was remarkably high, appointing him as my personal bodyguard. Though labeled as a bodyguard, in reality he served as my human suppressor, a measure to combat the sporadic heat periods caused by my inferior differentiation. This was to prevent me from experiencing any public displays of arousal, which would bring shame upon them. "My young master, there has been a scent emanating from you since the banquet began," he remarked. "The entire room now reeks of milk." At his words, Shunyu's voice dropped to a whisper. Milk, the scent of my pheromones. Hearing this, a heavy sensation settled in my heart. It was indeed the heat period. No wonder he had insisted on taking me away from the banquet earlier. No wonder I felt feverish, having mistakenly attributed it to the effects of alcohol. Shunyu was so close that his crisp pheromones enveloped me unabashedly. The heat within me intensified, akin to a raging fire. The citrus fragrance in the room grew more pronounced. Dazed, I thought, Shunyu is doing this on purpose, flooding me with pheromones to entice me. I could no longer restrain myself, wrapping my legs around his waist like an octopus, attempting to draw in more of his pheromones. Gazing at Shunyu's exquisite face, I closed my eyes, The narrative suggested I would meet my demise at his hands. Yet I refused to believe it. I intended to pull him into my grasp. With newfound determination, I seized his collar and, with the last vestiges of my rationality, commanded him, "Mark me." To my surprise, Xinyu paused momentarily. Previously, I had been reluctant to let him soothe me, relying solely on special suppressants to endure my heat periods. However, Xinyu quickly gathered himself, parting my collar, his voice laced with delight. "I shall be gentle, my young master." 3. I confess, when his canines pierced my glands, fear coursed through me. The sensation of being marked, given my incomplete differentiation, was exponentially more intense than that of an ordinary individual. Fortunately, I could still endure it, perhaps due to the high compatibility between Xinyu and myself. This marking felt particularly protracted. Just as I felt I could no longer stand, Xinyu finally released his grip. As I prepared to push him away, a wave of warmth swept over my glands. My eyes widened in disbelief as I looked at Xinyu. "Are you out of your mind?" Xinyu feigned innocence. "What is it, young master?" I remained speechless. Too lazy to argue, I extended my hand towards him. "Carry me to the bath." The perspiration from the marking had left me feeling sticky and uncomfortable. Xinyu thoughtfully prepared a warm bath for me. I languidly leaned against the doorframe, watching him. Through the steam, his shirt tightened with each movement, accentuating his slender waist. I swallowed hard and averted my gaze. Damn, what an enticing man. Sinking into the bathtub, I let out a contented sigh. Xunyu's silhouette stiffened imperceptibly, and just as he was about to leave, I called out to him. With a tone both audacious and domineering, I commanded, "Who said you could leave? Come here and massage my back. No matter what, my persona must remain intact. Otherwise, Xinyu could easily manipulate me at will." Xinyu obediently squatted by the edge of the bathtub. I mischievously placed my foot on him, causing the water from the tub to quickly seep into his dark trousers. Xinyu grasped my troublesome foot, his gaze deepening as if he intended to devour me. "Young master, training a dog requires a firm hand. Being too gentle won't suffice." I shivered slightly. Xinyu leaned closer, whispering in my ear, "Little master, what are you pretending? You are clearly as pure as can be." With my thoughts laid bare, I felt a surge of irritation. Without a second thought, I raised my hand and slapped Xinyu across the face. The sound reverberated in the air, leaving a bright red handprint on his fair complexion. Silence enveloped the space. I feigned composure, glancing at Xinyu's expression. Suddenly he smiled, capturing my hand. My heart raced. I feared Xinyu would seek retribution prematurely. Yet he merely said, "Don't slap my face. Strike here instead." 4. The bar was a haze of inebriation and indulgence. I lounged on the sofa, idly toying with my glass. The sofa beside me sank as Han Du settled in close. What a rarity. That Shin fellow didn't show up today. After taking a sip of my drink, I replied he was called away by my father. Han Du nodded in understanding. "I thought so. He usually follows you like a loyal hound. Turns out, he is off to report you to your dad." I raised an eyebrow, neither confirming nor denying. As we spoke, Han Du inched closer, prompting me to frown and push him away. "Back off, your scent is overpowering." Han Du looked incredulous. "After all these years together, you still find me repugnant?" I awkwardly scratched my nose. It wasn't he that I genuinely disliked him. Han Du was a playful character. We had grown up together without boundaries. His playful nature resulted in an array of scents that, when too close, became overwhelming. Suddenly, a commotion erupted nearby. I stood, and a figure suddenly collided into my arms. I stumbled back, instinctively steadying the person. When they lifted their head, my breath hitched. Upon closer inspection, they bore a striking resemblance to me. What an uncanny coincidence. "Get over here, you little wretch," a rotund, drunken man shouted, brandishing a bottle and directing his ire at the person in my arms. I detest self-righteous, arrogant individuals. I sighed impatiently and addressed the man. "This individual is under my protection." The man bristled. "Who are you? You think you can dictate anything?" Han Du, unable to tolerate the scene, summoned security to escort the man away. "What a nuisance," he remarked, then turned his attention to the person who had collided with me. "They're rather good-looking." I internally scoffed. Of course, they were attractive. This was the protagonist, Lin Jian. Lin Jian seemed to snap back to reality from the earlier fright, his delicate face streaked with remnants of tears, evoking a sense of compassion. "Thank you, Mr. Xie, for your help just now." His voice was sweet, befitting someone who could capture Xin Yu's heart in the future. "What a pity." I gently caressed Lin Jian's face and suggested, Why not come with me? Lin Jian appeared momentarily taken aback, a complex expression flitting across his features, but he ultimately acquiesced. I made a call to have him taken to my apartment in the southern part of the city. Han Du stood in stunned silence, finally regaining his composure. Wait a minute, are you serious? He pointed at Lin Jian's retreating figure, then at me. Are you two embarking on a romantic relationship? I picked up the car keys from the table and headed outside. Is that a problem? 5. Once in the car, I made my way directly to Xin Yu's residence. The neighborhood where Xin Yu lived was old and dilapidated. Parking was a hassle, and there was even no elevator. After a strenuous ascent to the 6th floor, I found myself breathlessly rapping on his door, only to be taken aback by the sight that greeted me. Xin Yu seemed to have just emerged from the shower, clad only in a towel. Water droplets cascaded down his hair, tracing the contours of his skin before disappearing beneath the towel. The brilliance of his fair skin was almost blinding. I swallowed hard, my mind involuntarily drifting back to that night in the bathroom. Climbing the stairs had indeed been quite taxing. Xin Yu appeared surprised by my unexpected visit and inquired, "Young master?" I snapped back to reality, averting my gaze as I stepped inside. Suddenly, I felt my feet leave the ground. Startled, I gasped. Xin Yu had lifted me effortlessly and placed me atop the shoe cabinet by the entrance. To be frank, given the furnishings in this apartment, I feared I might collapse the cabinet under my weight. Though I was an adult male, I still gripped Xin Yu's arm tightly. "What are you doing?" Bending down, Xin Yu retrieved a pair of slippers from the cabinet and grasped my foot, sending a ticklish sensation coursing through me. I instinctively recoiled, refusing to wear them. Meeting Xin Yu's puzzled gaze, I raised my chin defiantly. "I do not wear shoes that others have donned." A hint of a smile tugged at the corners of Xin Yu's mouth, but before I could discern it fully, he looked down again. "These are new. No one has worn them." Now that was more acceptable. "Your neighborhood is rather run down. There isn't even an elevator." Xin Yu readily accepted the criticism, saying, "My fault. I shall choose a better place next time to spare my young master the trouble." I scoffed softly. If he were to relocate to a better residence, it certainly wouldn't be for my benefit. The old man must have provided Xin Yu with a substantial sum, or else he would not have willingly taken on the role of a bodyguard. According to the original narrative, Xin Yu had used the money given by the old man to purchase an apartment, where he and Lin Jian spent their days entangled in a tumultuous affair. Clearly, he had the means to find a more suitable place, yet he chose to live here, perhaps saving up for a secretive rendezvous. I observed Xin Yu as he changed clothes, my thoughts racing, and suddenly declared, "Xin Yu, starting tomorrow, you will move in with me." Xin Yu paused, his hands stilling as he set down his garments. The delightful spring light was obscured, and I reluctantly withdrew my gaze. He looked down at me, curiosity etched on his face. Silence enveloped the room, and I felt a flutter of apprehension under his scrutinizing gaze. Just as I anticipated a refusal, he acquiesced. A wave of relief washed over me. Now, with Lin Jian dispatched to the southern part of the city and Xin Yu residing with me in the north, the vastness of Shao City meant that, should they wish to meet, it would require effort. Following the progression of the story, Lin Jian had played a significant role in the dynamics between Xin Yu and me. Their separation would eliminate unnecessary complications and facilitate the development of my relationship with Xin Yu. Before I could utter another word, Xin Yu gestured toward the window, saying, "However, young master, you may need to endure a little discomfort at my place tonight." It had begun to rain outside, and the downpour was intensifying. I thought to myself, this was fortuitous. The heavens had conspired to present me with an opportunity. Xin Yu had just used the bathroom, and the lingering scent still clung to the air. Typically, he was quite cautious, and aside from that one incident where he lost control, I had never encountered his pheromones again. After his shower, I felt as though I might be overwhelmed by the fragrance. A warmth began to radiate from my neck, an uncomfortable sensation. Sometimes, a high level of compatibility could be a double-edged sword, making one prone to blushing and racing hearts at the slightest provocation from the other's pheromones. Upon noticing my emergence, Xin Yu instinctively approached to dry my hair. I raised my gaze, locking eyes with him. "Xin Yu, your home has an overpowering scent. It makes me uncomfortable." Xin Yu's eyes lifted as he regarded me silently, his expression revealing that he understood my sentiment. In truth, Xin Yu did not fit the mold of a typical bodyguard. No bodyguard would be so audacious, ambitious, and proud. I had failed to recognize this before. I had not regarded him with the respect he deserved. Now, however, I found his demeanor inexplicably alluring. Xin Yu leaned down, loosening the collar of my shirt, revealing my vulnerable glands. Even though it was merely a temporary marking, repeated encounters inevitably fostered a bond, especially given our high compatibility. Leaning back against the couch, my gaze drifted to Xinyu. He appeared to be struggling as well, certain reactions betraying his discomfort. Clearly, my efforts had not been in vain. It was evident that Xinyu harbored feelings for me. He was handsome, with a commendable physique, and I found no disadvantage in being with him. However, the fabric of his clothing was somewhat coarse, causing my skin to itch and redden, a rather unpleasant sensation. I tugged at my shirt, oblivious to the sudden intensity in Xunyu's gaze. I beckoned him closer, and he obediently lowered his head. Seizing his collar, I looked down at him with authority. Xinyu, having marked me, you are not permitted to entertain anyone else. Understand? His eyes darkened, brimming with an emotion I could not decipher. In a tone that felt like a promise, he murmured, I shall be nothing but your inhibitor, young master. Pleased, I ruffled his hair and pressed a kiss to his lips. Good boy, a reward for you. When Han Du called, I was standing outside the apartment in the southern district. Xieyun, where are you? I glanced down, fiddling with the keypad of the door lock. I'm in the south. Han Du gasped in disbelief. No way, are you really that invested in Lin Jian? What was the password again? What are you thinking? He is my father's illegitimate son. The line fell silent for a few seconds, followed by Han Du's incredulous voice. What? No wonder he looks so familiar. Wait, are you serious about this? It seemed Han Du's thought process was beyond saving. Just as I hung up, the door lock clicked open, revealing Lin Jian at the threshold. Upon seeing me, he stepped aside. It's young Master Xie. I settled in and got straight to the point. Speak, what do you want? Lin Jian feigned innocence. Young Master Xie. I don't understand what you mean. I gestured toward the table, implying, weren't you specifically seeking me out? Lin Jian's grip on my hand faltered. After a moment of silence, when he raised his gaze again, his expression was devoid of the previous obsequiousness and vulnerability. His transformation was rather swift. I raised an eyebrow, noting that this was not the Lin Jian described to me. I want to meet my father. I was not surprised by his request. It was a trivial matter, and as his older brother I was naturally inclined to agree. Lin Jian seemed taken aback by my readiness. He hesitated. Aren't you afraid I will return to contest your inheritance? I shrugged. I don't care about that. Given Lin Jian's sensitive background, I chose my words carefully. Besides, you didn't choose your birth. It isn't your fault. My father was notorious for his scandalous affairs, often employing coercive tactics. Lin Jian's mother was one of the victims. As I spoke, I stood up and inadvertently strained a sore spot. Lately, I had been feeling strangely fatigued and achy. Lin Jian's eyes widened as if he had just noticed something. What's wrong? I inquired, puzzled. He stared at my neck, his expression complex, before shaking his head. It's nothing. Upon returning home, I found Xinyu preparing dinner. Ever since we began living together, he had taken charge of my meals. Every day, gazing upon such a handsome visage has undeniably enhanced my appetite. I lean against the doorframe, watching Xinyu busily engaged in his tasks. Adorned with an apron, he accentuates his remarkable physique. Truly a treasure. A diligent and handsome man such as he is indeed a rarity. Upon noticing my return, Xinyu merely cast a fleeting glance my way before redirecting his attention back to the pot before him. Has he turned into a disobedient pup? Even the Master's arrival fails to elicit a greeting. I approached him and planted a gentle kiss on his distinguished profile. He slightly turned his face away, adopting a dismissive posture. After being repeatedly ignored, a flame of irritation ignited within me. What has gotten into you today? I inquired. Did you meet him? He abruptly asked. Momentarily taken aback, I responded. Who? Xinyu extinguished the flame and turned to face me with a cold, scrutinizing gaze. I heard that the young master brought someone back? How does he know? I didn't. It dawned on me, are you spying on me? Has the young master forgotten that the driver's schedule passes through my hands? I momentarily faltered, realizing he was indeed correct. Xinyu lowered his eyelashes submissively, his voice tinged with a hint of grievance. You specifically sent me to Mr. Shen's place just to bring him home? Indeed, it seemed that way. Otherwise, why would I have taken you along, just to witness your affectionate interactions? Gazing at his elegantly curled lashes, I tentatively probed, are you very concerned about him? Yes. Hearing his affirmative response, my heart sank considerably. Yet, unwilling to give in, I pressed on, you've never even met him. How could you care? The answer remained unwaveringly affirmative. He added, now the young master carries his scent. Damn, why would I care about that? I finally understood why Xinyu was acting strangely today. He was indeed jealous. He hasn't even met Lin Jian, yet his possessiveness is already so pronounced? I merely brushed against Lin Jian, absorbed a hint of his pheromones, and Shun Yu could detect it. What a keen nose he has. A peculiar bitterness welled up within me. I shook off Shun Yu's hand and moved toward the exit. Shun Yu swiftly stepped forward, grasping my wrist with a grim expression. Where do you think you're going? I retorted impatiently, what business is it of yours? You're merely a bodyguard. Just a dog to me. Don't think that just because you have my favor you can act as you please. Mind your place. As soon as the words left my mouth, regret washed over me. I stood rooted, unable to move. Shun Yu let out a low chuckle. Young master, hasn't anyone told you that training a dog should not be abandoned midway? I warily watched as he withdrew a leather strap, stepping back. What do you mean by that? Shun Yu methodically straightened the strap, stating, I simply wish to be a well-behaved dog, but young master, you are far too unruly. I attempted to flee, yet he held me firmly, my hands ensnared by the strap. His rough fingertips brushed against my lips before he kissed me forcefully. Where did you touch him? Here? Or here? Perhaps here. He seemed to become addicted to the act, kissing me again and again in a relentless exploration. I could no longer contain my pheromones. The sweet scent of milk filled the room. As the situation spiraled towards an uncontrollable climax, I trembled and called out to him, Shun Yu, please stop. Shun Yu feigned ignorance, continuing his ministrations. Realizing he was serious, I hastily exclaimed, I didn't touch him. I don't like him. His stubbornness finally prompted him to lift his gaze to meet mine. I stammered my explanation, concluding with, you know that we are both. Impossible. Shun Yu's expression softened as he meticulously scanned my face, seemingly assessing the truth of my words. After a moment he smirked slightly. One is sufficient for the young master. There's no need to seek others. Recognizing the threat in his words, I obediently nodded. Shun Yu, satisfied, pressed a kiss to the corner of my mouth before releasing the constraints on my hands. The strap left distinct red marks on my wrists, painful and numbing. I rotated my numb hands, only to find Shun Yu's gaze fixated on my wrists, inscrutable and profound. Fearing he might spiral into madness again, I called out, Shun Yu. He casually withdrew his gaze to meet mine. Caught off guard, I blurted out, I feel so itchy. To assure him of my sincerity, I lifted my shirt, pointing to the red spots on my abdomen and waist. Could there be bugs in the house? They've bitten me red. It's both itchy and painful. In truth, it wasn't just those areas. I suspected my chest and possibly my back were affected as well. However, I felt too embarrassed to reveal them to Shun Yu. Shun Yu's expression darkened, his eyes reflecting an unusual flush. He closed his eyes, seemingly suppressing something. Realizing the gravity of the situation, I quickly dropped my shirt and excused myself. I need to use the restroom. But as I took a step, Shun Yu pressed me back down. Where do you think you're running off to? Your pheromones are everywhere. It dawned on me. Shun Yu's possessiveness had reached an alarming level. He wanted to know the minutiae of my daily whereabouts and encounters, even dictating the styles of clothing I wore. This had become a source of distress for Han Du, who often lamented to me, "Isn't he unwell? He's just a bodyguard. Yet he insists on monitoring your outings? Don't you find it bothersome? It makes it hard to enjoy myself. Anyone unaware might think he's someone significant to you." I glanced at Shun Yu in the distance, our eyes locking, and I sheepishly set down my glass. It's fine. I don't find it bothersome. Han Du laughed and chided, "Damn, do you have a masochistic tendency? If someone else were to watch me like that, I'd go mad." Truth be told, I rather enjoyed this feeling. Whether in joy or in sorrow, to be remembered by someone was a sensation I had never experienced before. However, one fateful night, as Shun Yu stealthily climbed into my bed for the umpteenth time, I opened my eyes, turned, and straddled him. "Caught you." Shun Yu, clearly taken aback by my sudden discovery, froze. I seized his hand and guided it beneath my shirt. These must be the little dog's bites, right? His breathing grew heavy beneath me, the answer all too clear. Despite appearing astute, he could be rather foolish at times. "Shun Yu, do you like me?" I admitted that throughout these days of interaction, I had inevitably developed feelings for Shun Yu. No one could resist the gaze of another who devotedly focused upon them. I finally realized that Shun Yu's earlier outburst was not solely due to Lin Jian, but rather because I had brought someone home, regardless of who it was. It was his possessiveness that stirred within him. What he cared about was whether I had another person in my life. Yet I was afraid. What if all my efforts were in vain? What if I awoke to find myself trapped within the confines of the narrative? Just as the story states, Shun Yu fell in love with Lin Jian, while I would face a grim fate at Shun Yu's hands. Moonlight filtered through the gaps in the curtains. I saw the depths of Shun Yu's eyes, dark and heavy. Silence enveloped the room. No words were exchanged. I fixated on Shun Yu, awaiting an answer. After a moment, he rested his hand on my waist, seemingly surrendering, and sighed softly, "Young master, I thought I was being quite obvious." In the next instant, a flurry of kisses descended upon me. Amidst the overwhelming chaos of emotions, I sensed something amiss and quickly pressed down on Shun Yu. "Stop." Shun Yu momentarily paused, halting his actions. Sensing my reluctance, Shun Yu leaned in, his eyes glistening, and tenderly kissed the corner of my mouth. "Do not fret. You should rest," he murmured before turning away and heading towards the bathroom. Moments later, the sound of running water filled the air. Just earlier, we had both succumbed to our impulses, the mingling sense of citrus and milk lingering in the atmosphere. I rolled onto my side, captivated by the silhouette reflected on the frosted glass. The marks of affection are most perilous. What once seemed to be driven by necessity and devoid of restraint, now, after the unveiling of true feelings, every mark resonates with emotion. Yet, how long does such sentiment endure? Even those who have forged lifelong bonds may part ways. What hope is there for a fleeting, tempestuous mark? Much like my mother and father, throughout my upbringing, I have witnessed countless quarrels. Each concluded with my father storming out, leaving my mother in tears upon the sofa, lamenting my inability to win his favor. Such incidents intensified following my failure to differentiate. It felt as though I had become merely a pawn for my mother to appease my father. Once deemed useless, I was discarded. I yearned to escape the heart-wrenching arguments and accusations, prompting my early departure. Thankfully, after my differentiation failure, my father ceased to cast his gaze upon me, allowing me a semblance of freedom. On the day I brought Lin Jian back to the Xia household, my mother, furious, struck me hard across the face. Taken aback, I felt a searing pain on my cheek. With incredulity, she pointed at me, her expression twisted in rage, her usual elegance lost. "Look at the trouble you've caused," I retorted, pressing my tongue against the roof of my mouth. "He is also your husband's son. Why can he not return home?" She opened her mouth to utter more, but my father interjected, "Enough, what is there to argue about?" He then gestured for Lin Jian to follow him upstairs. My mother glared at Lin Jian in frustration, yet was rendered powerless watching him enter the study. "Had you been more capable, I would not have been reduced to allowing a bastard into our home. If only you were a decent individual or even just adequate. Instead, you have devolved into a substandard failure. Not only did you lose the engagement with the Han family, but now you cannot even secure a union with the Gu family. Truly worthless. A waste of the years I invested in your upbringing." My expression darkened, a flicker of derision crossing my eyes. From a young age, I had been groomed as the exemplary heir, my mother pouring her heart and soul into my upbringing. During that time, my father, for my sake, feigned tenderness to placate her. Perhaps my first 16 years had been too smooth, prompting the heavens to cast their envy upon me. At the age of 16, I failed to differentiate, falling short of my father's expectations. I did not become the ideal successor or even a perfect being capable of bolstering our family. Instead, I differentiated into a defective being, constantly at risk of estrus. My previous pride lay shattered. My father's hopes for me evaporated, leading to a decline in my visits home. Correspondingly, my mother's demeanor grew increasingly cold, as if I had merely become a tool to win my father's affection. My mother cast a sidelong glance at me, inquiring, "How is your relationship with Han Du developing?" I furrowed my brows, suppressing my irritation, and replied coolly, "Han Du and I are merely friends. Do not let your thoughts wander towards him. Since childhood, Han Du and I have been bound by an engagement. However, our camaraderie has remained strictly platonic, akin to that of brothers. Dissolving the engagement was, in fact, in line with our wishes." Perhaps my unexpected tone rendered my mother speechless, for she fell silent. Shortly thereafter, my father emerged from the study. With an air of solemn responsibility, he patted Lin Jian on the shoulder, declaring, "You shall be the one to forge a union with the Gu family. In exchange, I shall honor my promise to you." Lin Jian's expression remained placid, as if discussing a matter unconnected to him, responding coolly. I could see my mother bracing for another argument with my father, prompting me to hasten my pace and exit alongside Lin Jian. Lin Jian regarded me with a half-smile. "Why do you seem to be in such a rush? I've heard enough of this throughout my life. I am weary of it. It seems the life of the wealthy is not without its trials." I clicked my tongue in annoyance, then recalled something and asked him, "Are you truly intent on marrying Gu Mingyu? He is no ordinary individual. Currently, the only eligible member of the Gu family is their young patriarch, who, at such a tender age, has ascended to such a prestigious position, shouldering the weight of Shaoqing, indicating his exceptional capabilities." Yes, Lin Jian paused. "We are old acquaintances." I raised an eyebrow, intrigued. It appears their relationship is more than mere acquaintance. I caught a whiff of gossip brewing. Just then, Lin Jian gestured behind me, indicating, "Someone is here to see you." With that, he departed. I turned to find Xin Yu standing a short distance away. How striking he appeared. I approached and took his hand. "Let us go." Yet, Xin Yu remained transfixed, his gaze following Lin Jian's retreating figure. A pang of anxiety struck me. Could this wretched plotline be manifesting? Tentatively, I asked, "What do you think of him?" He withdrew his gaze, lowered his eyes, pulling me closer, and murmured, "Xiaoyun, you are too close to him. I do not appreciate the scent of another on you." His heated breath caressed my neck, his deep voice sending shivers through me. Without a doubt, I had flushed crimson. Realizing my overthinking, I relaxed and focused on appeasing this possessive yet difficult-to-console companion before me. After the engagement with the Gu family was established, my father's regard for Lin Jian reached unprecedented heights. Fearing any disturbances before the wedding, he even reassigned Xin Yu to his side. Though I was aware of Xin Yu's loyalty to me, the matter concerning Lin Jian and his betrothed left me feeling unsettled. Fortunately, after today, I would no longer have to live in trepidation. Today, Han Du, in a fit of madness, insisted I accompany him for drinks, claiming it was a rare opportunity to indulge without scrutiny. After several rounds, my mind began to blur. The air was thick with a cacophony of pheromonal scents, rendering me uneasy. Han Du suddenly shook me, anxiety etched across his face. "Are you in your heat period?" My head spun, and I responded sluggishly, "What?" At that moment, someone shouted, "Which one is in heat?" The scent is overwhelming. Simultaneously, the pheromones in the air became increasingly agitated. It finally dawned on me, and I attempted to rise, but found myself too weak. Han Du rummaged through my pockets. "Where is your suppressant?" Ordinary suppressants were ineffective for me. Mine was specially formulated. Since Xin Yu was usually by my side and my heat periods had stabilized considerably with him around, I hadn't brought it along. As my condition worsened, the surrounding crowd grew frantic. Even Han Du appeared unwell, his breathing shaky. I struggled to move backward. Han Du made a call and the crowd dispersed. He administered a dose of suppressant to himself before approaching me. "I will give you a temporary mark, then take you to the hospital." I looked at Han Du incredulously. "Have you lost your mind?" He hesitated, "But there is no other way." "Damn it, Han Du, you unreliable fool. If it comes to that, just hand me a regular suppressant." My mind clouded. I struggled to pull out my phone to call Xin Yu. Suddenly, I was enveloped in a familiar embrace, the scent of citrus enveloping me. Darkness consumed my vision, followed by Han Du's voice. "Xin Yu? Where are you taking him?" "He needs to go to the hospital." Xin Yu replied, "His boyfriend is here. Why would he need a hospital?" He strode away, cradling me in his arms. Xin Yu cast me onto the bed with a sudden motion and immediately loomed over me. Despite the fearsome countenance he wore when cold, I dared to embrace his waist, nestling against him as I mustered the courage to utter soft words. "Xin Yu, I feel unwell. Would you grant me a kiss?" Under normal circumstances, Xin Yu would never allow me to suffer even the slightest discomfort, and he would have already kissed me. Yet, at this moment, he merely gazed down at me with a troubled expression, his face shadowed by gloom. I felt an unbearable ache, clinging tightly to him, desperately drawing comfort from his pheromones. I recognized that Xin Yu was angry, for I had nearly been marked by Han Du just moments ago. Though his intentions were benevolent, the danger of that situation was undeniable. "Xiaoyun, do you wish to break up?" he asked. I was taken aback, looking up at him in confusion. Perhaps it was the sensitivity that accompanied my heat period, compounded by his cold demeanor, that caused my voice to tremble with a hint of tears as I replied, "I do not wish to part." Xin Yu remained silent, his fingertips tracing my glands with varying pressure. I bit my lip tightly to suppress any sound that might escape. Finally, in an act of unexpected mercy, he released me, swiftly biting down and injecting his pheromones. The last memory I held was the sound of a sigh near my ear. I closed my eyes, embracing his warm body once more. Upon awakening days later, I realized that my heat had coincided with Xin Yu's sensitivity period, resulting in an entangled 3-day affair. I sat up, feeling a chill on my wrist. Instinctively turning my head, I noticed a slender chain glimmering, undoubtedly the work of Xin Yu. Such a peculiar playfulness he possessed. I turned to see him standing by the window, blinking innocently as I offered him a charming smile. Shunyu approached, his gaze cast downward upon me, and suddenly let out a light laugh. Every night, I ponder whether, if you happen to awaken, you might feel as pleasurable as I do. His smile was exceptionally gentle, yet his tone bore a heavy darkness. Xieyun, would you permit me to confine you? To ensure that you see only me day and night? Why do you never learn to behave? I have given you countless opportunities, yet you fail to cherish them. Why must there always be others around you? Am I not enough? I was momentarily stunned, then quickly retorted, I do not. I reached out to touch his face earnestly, asserting, Han Du is merely a friend, while Xin Yu is my beloved. My affection for Xin Yu is unwavering. For the first time, I expressed such fervent and candid sentiments, causing my cheeks to flush slightly. Observing Xin Yu's evident surprise, I shook the chain in my hand. If it brings you comfort, I would willingly wear it forever. I was eager to remain ensnared in the prison he had fashioned for me throughout my life. Xin Yu finally grasped my meaning, his gaze deepening. Xieyun, do not deceive me. I shall cling to you for eternity. Gladly. Epilogue. Xin Yu's perspective. 1. It is often said that Xieyun, the young master of the Xie family, is a challenging one to please, arrogant and domineering. Today I finally encountered him, and indeed he lived up to the rumors, treating me like a mere servant. 2. He seems to have changed. Though clearly afraid of me, he feigns a fearless facade, teasing me both openly and subtly, his innocence strikingly apparent. To me, he resembles a cat that only knows how to scratch. Quite intriguing indeed. 3. It is genuinely amusing to discover someone who fears injections. When he was to receive a shot in his rear, he insisted I not watch. Yet, I could not help but see. It was rather fair, for the first time I witnessed him cry, his eyes were red, resembling that of a rabbit. 5. The scent of his pheromones filled the room, yet he remained blissfully unaware of it. Was it intentional? It was the first time I found the aroma of milk to be delightful. My young master, how fragrant you are. I nearly could not resist, almost waking him. He is quite precious. If he were to awaken, I could only imagine the tempest of his wrath. 6. Keep your distance from others, my young master. I am consumed with jealousy. 7. If you wish to command me like a dog, I would gladly comply. End of text. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this, please consider subscribing and liking for support. Until we meet again in the next story.